Along the lines of communications, it's very important if you sell a product or service to get clients on the phone. Either you're going to get a client on the phone or you're going to get a prospect on the phone, and because that is an activity that is it's a big stretch for a lot of people these days, especially with the internet. But again, if you can get people on the phone, you can share and communicate with them. In this episode, I'm going to give you a handful of key ideas to get you started. Now, these are coming from my journal. This is a topic that I journaled about a little bit here, and I'm not going to read it completely out. But the key is, and I teach this in my program, Establish Instant Credibility. When you get the chance to have a dialogue with somebody, you can ask them questions. You can better understand their needs. You can listen to their articulation in their voice or the tone or their level of excitement, and you have an opportunity to really learn quickly. Number one, though, we have to understand what is a dialogue. Now, we're not talking about getting somebody on the phone and you're going to pitch them. You know, you can pitch a group on a webinar, but even then there has to be some structure on it. But a dialogue is where I'm going to answer questions and I'm going to respond. Now, there are different types of dialogues, but a dialogue is a balanced conversation where you're going to listen as much as you're going to speak. Now, what's important about a dialogue is the other person feels as if they are heard. Now, hopefully they actually are heard, but they need to feel like they have a vested interest in the conversation and that being in that conversation is the very best use of their time. Now, there's different types of dialogues. There's a consultation dialogue. There's a dialogue that is just, you're trying to solicit information. We won't go into those details right now. We want to talk about the mechanism for getting somebody on the phone. But again, you want to have a chance to have that personal connection, and so the dialogue method is the best. Now, there are, I mentioned lectures. You can get people on a call, such as a webinar or demonstration or some kind of presentation, where you're teaching or you're lecturing or you're setting up a sales presentation that's basically one-to-many. I think if you don't get enough dialogues, though, that one-to-many is a little challenging because you don't know the individual needs of a person. So the type of call that we're talking about getting here is like the type of call that I produce when I do my paid consultation, or I do like where people can write in for their questions. Now, if I do have a conversation with somebody, usually they're recorded conversations, and they give me the opportunity to listen to the conversation again and then to take notes from the conversation. That's how, as a consultant or a coach, I'm able to sit down with somebody, have a 15-minute discussion about their challenges, and then to use the initial assessment, the conversation, and then some research to come up with some real solid ideas and concepts that work for them. So this is the kind of call where you're offering a product or service. Maybe you're offering the opportunity to work for a company as an employee. Maybe you're a services provider. Maybe you're a consultant, and this person is going to call you up, and they don't want to be sold, but they do want to buy. Your job is to use the dialectic, the dialogue, to ask questions, to get the information you need to know what to offer them. So the first thing we're going to do in getting those calls is to identify the audience. Who do you want to call you? Unfortunately, today, with this unlimited reach, you can reach people all over the world, but if you only have a specific service area, you don't want to be talking to somebody on the other side of the planet who can't buy your products and services. You also don't want to talk to people who are just talking to you because they don't have anybody else to talk to and they're bored. That's why there's a lot of barriers to entry to talk to me, because I got stuff to do, and so should you. Now, what's important here is we need to establish in our pre-communications, so before they call on the phone, what do we want the people to see? Now, for businesses, very much you're going to have the podcast, you're going to have the advertisement, you're going to have the articles, you're going to have your social media posts, you're going to have a lot of content floating around there. That content must condition the individual to call with purpose. So they may call you for a transactional call, which is, hey, I want to buy something. They may call you because they want more information. They may call you because they're not sure which solution is right for them. That's what you want to assess very early on the call, but you want to give them a reason to call. So framing the conversation gets you more calls that are of value versus calls that are not. So when I do my group coaching calls, you can, and I'm not going to put a link below, but you can find it if you go to the website. I have a group call with, I think only 7 or 9 people can be on the call, and you pre-schedule it. And then when I get on the call, I open with any questions that were sent in previously, and then we just round robin and answer everybody's questions that are on the call. That call is a catalyst for content for the newsletter and other things, but it's an opportunity for people to kind of pick my brain in a structured environment. And I set that call up as part of my contact page because that's the appropriate place to put it. So do you have questions about creating and keeping profitable customers? Join a group coaching call and ask your questions. Then when they join, they get a whole bunch of information about how to ask their questions without joining the call, because a lot of times people don't want to be on calls. They don't want to be on this interactive stuff. But I give them a way to get on the call as well as to ask your questions in advance, but still why you should get on the call. Because when you talk with me in person, it's a lot different experience than talking to me through the computer screen here. You know, my eyes will actually look at you the whole time instead of me jibber jabbering my eyes all over the place because I'm trying to keep up with the screen. So again, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a blog post, whether it's an interview where you're interviewing somebody, you always want to offer the opportunity for someone to ask their questions. Almost every program, hey, if anything I've said to you today really hit a nerve, and you've got a question and you want to make sure that question gets answered, here's how you contact me. There's a link below, or call us at our office. Now, I don't take incoming calls anymore. I really believe the telephone is for returning calls, not for taking calls, because I try to structure my day. Now, I tell you this stuff, it doesn't happen perfectly every day. But my point being is, you don't want to have everybody calling you on the telephone. And if they are going to call you on the telephone, make it clear that it's a toll-free message box. Okay? So, hey, call toll-free and leave a message, and I'll get back with you. Because if they call you up and you're in the middle of something else, and you grab your phone and you're like, hey, and you're not prepared to have a conversation, then it's harder to have a dialogue. The next factor too is that if they call in, you want to be in front of a notepad so you can write down key ideas and you can kind of structure the conversation. We can talk about how to structure the conversation in another call. The key is, give them a reason to contact you. Now, my program, Establishing Instant Credibility, which is available at LeanPub, I think it is, and of course on the website at www.jwhco.org or .com. You can go to the store and there's the books in there. But I talk about this part here, the report offer. Hey, if you found this article interesting, now you wrote an article or an email. Hey, if you found this email interesting and you have specific questions, ask those questions at XYZ. Anybody who asks questions will get a free gift, which is a report on the same topic, because the report might answer questions. You can also have the report available so when someone calls you, you can condense the call down and say, hey, look, it sounds like you got a whole lot of questions and I'd love to help you out here. That's why I'd like to send you a free copy of my special report on this topic. What's your address? What's your phone number? You got their phone number probably on caller ID, but letting someone call in gets you more contact information about that prospect and allows you to follow up with them. Maybe you're writing short articles on LinkedIn or some business-related message board because you want hiring managers and recruiters to call you to get a copy of your resume because you're available to hire, or if there are specific questions in the industry. Maybe you're using questions and dialogue to follow up on people in your industry so that you can network, and as far as peer networking. Again, is some kind of front-end activity. A podcast, a newsletter article, an email message to friends. It could be a blog post. It could be a guest post. It could be a YouTube video. Get yourself out there, but again, follow the provide useful information, and then offer a way to ask additional questions. Now, a lot of folks are afraid to do that because they're afraid they're going to get a lot of questions. But trust me, over 500 podcasts, I don't get that many questions. I do get some paid consultations here and there. And of course, I've got inquiries from recruiters and folks like that, but it's not unmanageable. Most of the time, people don't want to talk on the phone, so they'll just send me an email, and I'll answer the email. Now, you will get people who want to pick your brain for their own purposes and have zero intention to actually hire you for anything. And that's an unfortunate event. The way we handle that is that our content up front sets the expectation that many of these questions you'll answer with additional content. Hey, I'd love to, so somebody's on the phone with you and you're like, hey, I'd love to chat about this a little bit more, but I only have the time that we've spent. Can I ask you something? Can I get, what's your 3 biggest challenges? And then at the end of the call, hey, look, I'm going to write about addressing one of those challenges, and I'd like to get that over to you. What's your email address? So you can follow up. Other ways to get people on a call is to offer a gift. Again, if you've written a free report, you can offer the free report as a gift. Hey, it's been a pleasure to sharing this podcast with you. If you have any questions about this or anything I've covered, contact me at this website. And I'd love to give you this free gift that helps you do X, Y, and Z. Simply ask for it at the website. The website is www.justinhitt.com. Just go to the contact page and ask your question. Do you see how it works? So any content you have up front, even if you're networking at a business event, hey, here's my card. Give me a call sometime. I love to hear about the challenges you're facing in the industry and to see if I have any solutions for you. Again, if you set up, let's schedule an appointment so I can pitch you something, nobody wants to do that. If it's, let's schedule an appointment so I can learn a little bit more about your situation and see if we can match you with somebody who can help solve that problem, that's more friendly. And plus, you can screen the people, because if they're not going to be a good customer, you can cut the call short. You can point them to a resource. You can help them along their way. They're happy. You're happy. You can build referrals. Another way to generate leads is directly via a landing page. And so what you want to do is you drop them on a landing page through a pay-per-click article ad, through an article, through something. Drop on the landing page. They opt in, and then on your confirmation page, you have one of those calendar links so that they can schedule some time on your calendar to ask specific questions. Now, this does 2 very important things. Number 1, it gets their email address so you can follow up. Number 2, for those people who are ready to do something now, who have already done the micro action of the email address, they will get on your calendar, and then you can have a conversation with them about their particular needs. So again, getting people on the phone is critical. There will be times you want to get them on the phone to present and do our sales presentation. But what I found very useful over the years is to promote some kind of group coaching call where people can hear each other on the phone. And then if they want specific and personal advice, they go to a paid consultation. Now, if you're an employee and you're looking to level up in a job, you might have calls that are just 5 or 10 minutes. And I did this all the time too. I'd be in a meeting and someone would say, hey, tell me more about such and such. And I'd say, well, I want to make sure we stay on the agenda, but if you don't mind, I'll give you a call after the meeting and we can discuss those key points. And very often they'll say, sure, no problem. Yeah, give me a call. Sometimes it's important. They'll want you to cover it in the meeting that you're in right there. But again, 5 or 10 minutes with a coworker. I've been on calls before for an hour with a coworker, coaching them on a particular set of issues that they had a concern with. I don't get paid any extra for that, but what happened is it made the team congruency much better in the future. And then I took notes on what we discussed, and then I wrote that up and updated our procedural. So you want to be taking these calls for educational purposes to help educate yourself about the needs of your prospects. You want to take these calls to connect in a personal way. You also want to take these calls in order to move people forward in your sales presentation. So it's really not that hard to get the calls, and you won't get so many calls that a 5 or 10 minute personal call isn't going to hurt anything. Now, what I do on my calendar is schedule blocks of time, though. So I'm not even sitting in front of a phone the majority of the time. And so if I get a call within a certain time period, I'll take the call. Good afternoon, this is Justin. How may I help you? And then sometimes it'll be, hey, I'm a subscriber to your newsletter. I enjoy the newsletter, but this last thing you just covered, it didn't make any sense and I need some help. Great. Tell me about your situation. And they'll say, well, my situation's this, and here's what the problem I'm facing. Well, what have you tried before, and how has it worked out? Oh, well, I did this, this, and this, and none of it worked. Great. What's your budget? So if it sounds like a potential client, what's your budget? What is it worth to you to solve this problem? And then I don't even have to go into a sales call. I'm just screening, but I'm taking notes. And then if they say, well, we're not really sure about a budget, I said, well, that's okay. That's okay. It sounds like there's a couple of approaches. Do you mind if I send you a copy of my special report that covers, and then I repeat the benefits that they're looking for? And they'll say, sure, no problem. I'll say, great. Let me get your address. I FedEx the report over to them. The report will have a cover letter. There'll be a report in there. The report pitches, and then there's a letter in there to pitch. It's a paid consultation or some kind of service. If it's a recruiter, recruiter reaches out to you, and LinkedIn's great for that. You screen the recruiter on your first conversation. Tell me a little bit more about the opportunity. Then you get on a call with them. Now, I have called people before. I was going back and forth with this author. You may or may not know who he is, but we're chatting back and forth on LinkedIn. I just call his desk and I say, hey, I notice you're still at work. Why don't we just have a 5-minute conversation rather than going back and forth on chat? And I really feel that builds rapport. It helps me better understand their situation. And it's enjoyable. It's really enjoyable. So again, we've discussed a number of ways to generate leads and to parlay those leads up into a one-on-one conversation. We talked about a soft conversation that's really a dialogue where you're going to ask questions and get to know the other person more than you're going to pitch them or place them in ideas. And then we're going to offer something of value that either makes them want to call. And if you get too many calls, you can do it differently, but you're not going to get that many calls. But the gift that you give them sets up reciprocity. It helps answer questions in depth because a lot of people fear they're going to get stuck on a call for too long. Now, I'm kind of a motor mouth. So there are times I'll be on a really good conversation and I'll real quick clear my calendar because this is the conversation I need to be on. And you can make that decision when you get there. But ultimately, that one-to-one communication is going to make a huge difference in your business. It's going to help you connect better with people that you work with and ultimately be of greater value to your audience. It's how we build business relationships in a world that is very syndicated. I've worked with people in one day, with people in Ireland in the morning. I'm on the East Coast of the United States. In the morning, we're working with people in Ireland. In the middle of the day, we're working with people in Central and West Coast. And then by the end of the day, we're working with people in India. And if you don't get those personal conversations, if you don't get those connections, then you can feel really isolated. And the other people feel isolated as well. Well, I'm Justin Hitt, and this has been the From My Desk newsletter. And this is also probably going to be an Inside Strategic Relations podcast episode. If you have questions about what I've covered here or anything else, or you'd want to experience the conversation with me on the telephone where we can answer questions that you have about the topics that we cover, I'd love to pick your brain as much as you'd love to pick mine so that I can make sure that the topics of this newsletter are of high value to the individuals that we're looking to serve here. Again, I'm Justin Hitt. You can reach me at www.justinhitt.com. Go to the contact page, ask your questions. That's a preferred method. You might even find a secret link there to join our group Q&A call. And sometimes you might be the only person on the call because, like I said, 7 to 9 people, and then it rolls the people over to the next set of calls. So depending on how early you schedule or how late you schedule, you might be on a call where you and I can have a joyful conversation and kind of get you some ideas and concepts to solve the big problems you face when it comes to transforming business relationships into profits guaranteed. I'll see you on the next call, And if you're a subscriber of From My Desk newsletter, there's one more episode coming right up.